Hello everyone, wishing you relaxing moments while watching this video. In today's episode, we will witness a glorious turning point as the enormous debt that once chained Tieu Hue's life is finally removed through the power of love and unexpected wealth. But now that the burden of money has been lifted, will the barriers of social class and insecurity inside the young woman's heart truly disappear? Or will they instead open the door to a new chapter filled with emotional storms and challenges? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support this couple and continue following the next dramatic developments in their journey. After the deeply emotional confession shared in the peaceful mountains, Tuan finally chose to stop hiding the truth and stand openly beside the woman he loved using every resource he possessed. He did not only use love to heal Tieu Hue's wounded heart, but also made the strongest and most decisive move possible to free her from the painful pursuit of the past. He officially fulfilled his promise to pay the entire massive debt created by her older brother. The $200,000 debt, a terrifying burden that had forced Tieu Hue to live in despair, hide from violent criminals, and run endlessly from her former husband and debt collectors, was now resolved quickly and completely by Tuan. To him, the money was never simply a financial transaction. It was the price he willingly paid to restore freedom and dignity to the woman he loved. He wanted Tieu Hue to finally stop waking up in fear during the middle of the night. He wanted her to no longer hide inside abandoned houses or struggle silently in poor markets trying to save every small coin to repay impossible debts. The moment the transfer documents were completed and the creditors officially confirmed that the debt had been fully paid, it felt as though an enormous weight had finally been lifted from Tieu Hue's shoulders. She stood there speechless, her tearful eyes fixed upon the man standing before her. For the first time after many endless years of being treated like an object sold to repay debt, Tieu Hue finally experienced the true feeling of freedom. Yet beneath the overwhelming relief filling her heart, another complicated emotion slowly appeared. Because she realized that while her debts to the world had finally disappeared, the emotional debt she now carried toward Tuan had become so deep that she no longer knew how she could ever repay the kindness and sacrifice of someone with such a noble and respected status. After Tuan decisively used his financial power to completely resolve the enormous debt, the pressure now shifted toward the people who had once treated Tieu Hue like a disposable object. Her former husband, the man who had relied on wealth and status to force a poor young woman into a loveless marriage, became furious when he realized he could no longer use money and control to keep Tieu Hue trapped beside him like a possession. He burned with anger and frustration at losing control over her life, but his arrogance quickly collapsed in the face of reality. However, greed had always been at the center of a man like him. When confronted with the massive amount of money Tuan offered, an amount large enough to blind any greedy person with desire, he was forced to make a practical decision. Although he was enraged that he could no longer marry the woman he wanted, he eventually realized that between a girl desperately trying to escape and an enormous amount of money, the balance clearly favored Tuan. In the end, with a mixture of greed and fear toward the true power of the wealthy young master, he agreed to sign the legal documents. By doing so, he officially gave up all rights to pursue or control Tieu Hue and accepted letting her leave with another man. The moment her former husband walked away carrying the money, a deep and overwhelming silence filled the air. For Tieu Hue, this became one of the most important moments of her painful life. For the very first time, she truly felt the breath of freedom. She finally understood that she had completely escaped the shadow of the past, the burden of her family, and the control of cruel people who had once imprisoned her life. Every invisible chain that had crushed her youth and happiness slowly disappeared. She was no longer an object to be exchanged between people, no longer a sinner trapped beneath impossible debt. At last, she had become a free woman ready to step into a new journey beside the man who had used both his love and his power to protect her. At last, Tieu Hue and Tuan were finally able to enjoy rare peaceful moments together. There were no longer sleepless nights filled with fear or quiet afternoons spent hiding in the corners of poor markets. Their lives had now become filled with a gentle and comforting warmth unlike anything they had experienced before. With care, patience, and understanding, Tuan wanted to make up for every hardship and painful sacrifice the woman he loved had endured for so many years. He brought Tieu Hue shopping and personally chose beautiful new clothes and necessary personal items for her, things that once felt completely impossible and luxurious in her former life. Standing before large mirrors while wearing elegant new outfits, Tieu Hue could hardly recognize herself anymore. The fragile and exhausted girl who once lived while constantly running away now seemed to slowly disappear. For the first time in her painful life, she truly experienced what it felt like to be loved, protected, and genuinely cared for by a man. Tuan's presence not only gave her physical safety, but also became a powerful source of healing for the emotional scars she had carried for so long. Their meals were no longer simple and hurried moments of survival. Instead, every meal became filled with warmth, delicious food prepared with sincerity, and quiet laughter shared together beside the house as the evening sunlight faded across the mountains. Their life together slowly became peaceful and light again. Even the sounds and rhythm of the mountain forest now seemed to blend perfectly with the happiness growing between their hearts. Tieu Hue slowly began learning how to smile again. This time, her smile was genuine, bright, and filled with peace because she finally knew that every step she took from now on would always be accompanied by Tuan, the man who had turned her dream of safety and happiness into reality. Inside the peaceful mountain house, as the golden sunset slowly covered the forest, Tuan and Tieu Hue sat quietly together, enjoying one of the rare calm moments after so many painful storms. Amid their soft and gentle conversations, Tuan suddenly became more thoughtful and serious than usual. He looked at Tieu Hue with eyes filled with trust, hope, and sincerity before slowly beginning to tell her more about his family. He explained that his father was currently away on a long overseas business trip, helping Tieu Hue better understand the responsibilities and busy life surrounding his wealthy family. With complete honesty, Tuan shared his deepest wish that the moment his father returned home, he would officially bring Tieu Hue to meet his family and introduce her as the woman he had chosen to spend the rest of his life beside. But what touched Tieu Hue's heart most deeply was when he began speaking about an even greater future together, a real wedding that would allow them to stand proudly beside each other as husband and wife. Tuan did not want her to remain forever hidden away in the mountains. He wanted to give her an honorable place beside him, a true home where she would be respected, loved, and protected. The promises of a beautiful wedding and a lifelong future together coming from the man she loved filled Tieu Hue with overwhelming happiness and emotion. Tuan's words were not empty promises spoken in a moment of romance. They became proof of how serious and sincere he truly was about their relationship. He wanted Tieu Hue to become an irreplaceable part of his life and hoped to erase every scar left behind by her painful past through a brilliant new beginning together. For Tieu Hue, being loved by a man like Tuan and hearing him speak about marriage felt like a dream she never dared to imagine during the darkest days of her life. Every word he spoke planted new hope deep inside her heart and slowly helped her believe that she truly had value and deserved to be loved after so many years of humiliation and rejection. Yet alongside that happiness came hidden fears growing quietly inside her soul. Even while moved by Tuan's love and sincerity, Tieu Hue could not stop imagining the harsh reality created by the enormous difference in their social status. Deep inside, she questioned whether she was truly strong enough to enter a wealthy and powerful family and face the judgmental eyes of the upper-class world surrounding him. At that moment, the sincerity and love shining in Tuan's eyes became the only thing giving her the strength to continue believing in the future he dreamed of for them. A future she longed for deeply, yet also feared might still remain far beyond the reach of a wounded girl like herself. Although happiness now filled every breath around her, the moment Tuan began speaking about a future far greater than the simple life they shared, a shadow of anxiety slowly began growing inside Tieu Hue's heart. She sat quietly beside the window, staring toward the distant mountains hidden beneath the fading sunset, a view that felt as uncertain and mysterious as the future waiting ahead of her. Even though her heart raced with joy, Tieu Hue could not escape the insecurity and self-doubt caused by her background. Her thoughts slowly drifted toward the enormous difference in wealth and social status between the two of them. Tuan was the son of a wealthy and powerful family, a true young master surrounded by enormous wealth and high social position. Meanwhile, she was only a poor girl carrying painful scars from the past and memories of humiliation and rejection. She understood that if she truly married Tuan, she would suddenly become the lady of a massive estate and step into a luxurious world she had never even dared to dream about before. But it was exactly this sudden transformation in her life that made her feel deeply uneasy. She feared that Tuan's father, a powerful man currently working overseas, would never truly accept a poor girl with such a painful and complicated past as his daughter-in-law. Inside her mind, she imagined the judgmental looks and whispers from wealthy people discussing the enormous gap between them. Yet the greatest fear inside her heart was the possibility that both society and even Tuan's own family might misunderstand her intentions. She feared people would believe she chose to be with Tuan only because of his money and enormous fortune. In reality, Tieu Hue loved him with complete sincerity. She loved the kind gardener who once saved her life deep in the forest, not the wealthy CEO surrounded by luxury and status. But now, she feared that his true identity and immense wealth would stain the purity of that love in the eyes of others. Those painful thoughts slowly surrounded her mind, turning the happiness of a dream wedding into something heavy beneath the pressure of prejudice and insecurity. Looking down at her rough hands accustomed to digging soil and harvesting vegetables, Tieu Hue quietly wondered whether they could ever truly belong beside the hands of a wealthy young master standing inside a magnificent wedding hall. In the quiet atmosphere of the fading evening, Tieu Hue stood alone beside the porch of the small mountain house, her distant eyes staring toward the mist-covered mountains far away. At that moment, her heart had become a true battlefield where her deep love for Tuan painfully struggled against the insecurity caused by her poor background. She truly loved him with all her soul, but the title of becoming the lady of a great estate, the future Tuan dreamed of giving her, only made her feel overwhelmed and afraid. Slowly lowering her gaze, Tieu Hue looked down at her own hands hardened by years of digging soil and stained with blood from forest thorns during the painful days she spent running away from danger. She quietly wondered whether those rough hands were truly worthy of holding the hands of a wealthy young master from a powerful family, or whether they would only stain the honor and prestige surrounding his world. The fear of being looked down upon and rejected by Tuan's family, especially by his powerful father, remained constantly inside her thoughts. Tieu Hue was never afraid of hardship or poverty. What truly frightened her was the judgmental gaze of society and the whispers accusing her of being a selfish woman who came to Tuan only because of his enormous fortune. On one side, She longed desperately to stay beside him and build a peaceful family together after surviving so many storms and painful struggles. But on the other side, her mind continued screaming that she was not worthy and that her presence would only bring trouble and damage to the reputation of the man she loved. This painful conflict inside her heart felt like a rope tightening around her throat, preventing her from giving him a complete and fearless answer. Tieu Hue now stood at the crossroads of destiny. Should she choose love and face the cruel storms of the wealthy world beside Tuan, or should she choose to walk away in order to protect her own dignity and the peaceful future of the man she loved? Do you think Tieu Hue should let go of her insecurity and accept Tuan's proposal? Please leave your thoughts in the comments to help Tieu Hue find the right path for her heart. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support us and continue following the next dramatic chapters of their story.
Tiếng cười nói khe khẽ hòa quyện cùng tiếng xào xạc của lá cây tạo nên một bản giao hưởng thanh bình của lao động. Công việc nhà nông tuy vất vả, đôi bàn tay bắt đầu có những vết chai sần và tà áo lấm lem bùn đất. Nhưng Tieu Hue chưa bao giờ cảm thấy hạnh phúc đến thế. Cô trân trọng từng giọt mồ hôi rơi xuống mảnh đất này, vì đó là mồ hôi của sự tự do, của một kiếp người đang được tái sinh từ đống tro tàn của sự áp bức. Sau khi gùi hàng đầy ắp những nông sản tươi ngon nhất, hai người lại cùng nhau gùi hàng xuống núi để kịp phiên chợ sớm. Đường rừng dốc đứng và trơn trượt, nhưng mỗi khi Tieu Hue mệt mỏi, Tuấn Anh lại lặng lẽ dừng bước chờ đợi, chủ yếu đỡ lấy phần gùi gánh nặng hơn cho cô.